This is the Ruthless with Gold event, and I'm back to playing Frost Blades. This time though, I'm doing a Frost Blades Raider on a level 80 currently, and making a decent little bit of progress. I have a couple of good pieces of gear. I got my Heatshiver and Southbound, as well as 3-step Assault to give me ailment avoidance, and I'm just about to start seeking out that maxed out ailment avoidance. And as you can see, it's actually a pretty quick build for Ruthless, getting a lot of movement speed from Elusive and from various other effects from the Raider and such. It's going pretty well so far. I have a couple of things that I'd like to talk about, so I'll go over my gear. I'm just getting my gear sorted. I'm still currently on a 4-link, and I don't have a bleed removal flask because alterations are really hard to get, so those corrupted blood packs can really mess me up. Overall, I have a decent setup. I think it's currently day 3 or so of the event, and it has been pretty fun. I did start out Frost Blades, which is maybe a little bit of a poor decision. I think overall it was okay. I didn't have any, I was just on a 1-link until Act 5, and then in the Reliquary I got 4 support gems in the Reliquary, to the point where I thought it was bugged and tried running it again, and I ended up getting 2 more over the course of the next 2 runs. It's one of those things that makes you think conspiratorially. I don't actually think that the Reliquary has a higher chance of dropping support gems, but yeah, I'm gonna have a confirmation bias, and I've gotten plenty of support gems outside of there now. Up until that point, I hadn't gotten any support gems yet, and I managed to go ahead and pick them up there, so that was a little interesting. But I got some really good ones right out of the gate. I was actually running a 2-handed version of Frost Blades prior to that, and then I got Nightblade as one of my supports actually, so I switched to a claw version, and I'm pretty much in a very similar setup to what I would do on my Frost Blades Trickster now at this point, and I think it's going pretty well. I just need to get a little bit more progression. And speaking of, I think I have a very different Atlas tree strategy than what many people are going for. I have some ideas. I did a little bit of testing in Ruthless Solo Self-Found, which I had played a decent bit prior to this, and I kind of have an idea of how to manipulate like how you get master missions, what kind of content shows up on your maps, and how frequently it does pretty well. Using some blocking and some of the additional nodes on the tree. So I'm going to try a very alternative method to just stacking as much map drop and higher map drop chance, although I am going to be getting some of both of those. But a lot of the main strategy is just getting that plus Kirak missions. And once again, Kirak missions I'll probably get a little bit, but my strategy is actually going to revolve heavily around Delve. Believe it or not, I'm going to do Delve, and I am going to do Alva Temples as well. I didn't actually realize this was Trade League right away, so I didn't actually start buying gear until I reached maps, but I was able to get some good stuff. Like for instance, I bought an Ice Bite and Multi-Strike support, so now I am sitting on Frost Blades with Ice Bite, Nightblade, and Multi-Strike. Do a little bit of a rundown of my character. Only 3,200 health. That's pretty normal for this more glass cannony build. Way overcapped on my resistances, but part of that is I took a lot of resistances from the tree. I'm currently in the process of speccing out of some of these excess. I took basically one with nature, Weathered Hunter, and Survivalist right away, as well as the Elemental Mastery for elemental resistances in order to not have to have as much on the gear, since gear is very limited in Ruthless. But now that I have much better gear, I'm going to start scaling that back. Just need a little bit more lightning resist, but I'm way overcapped on cold and fire, and I'm going to start picking up some more chaos resistance as well. First, I'll go over my gear. This is my claw. I bought it for 1 alchemy orb. I was going to buy a Mortem Morsu. The important thing, if you have Ice Bite, and some Frenzies because of the natural scaling cold damage on Frost Blades plus the substantial amount you get from Ice Bite. You don't need that much base damage, so the important things are attack speed, so 1.8 or higher attacks per second I was aiming for, and crit chance. Now this has lower crit chance, but about equal attack speed to Morsu. And what I noticed is it had a lot of lightning damage on it. And since I wasn't going Trinity right away, and probably won't for a while, I wasn't worried about it affecting the balance of my damage. And also the lightning damage isn't going to affect it. The fire damage might, but it's a small amount. And yeah, basically this just gives me shock chance by having that as well. So for one alchemy, this was a really great pickup. When I bought Multi-Strike, it was 3 alchemies, and Ice Bite was 2 alchemies. So that's where I spent, and I've been spending all of my alchemies, and I'll go over why I'm spending them and not saving them for progression, because part of the reason I'm going for Delve is, well, I'll just go over that now. I am going to be getting fossils and resonators in order to make all of my maps rare, basically. So the resonators, the 1-socket resonators, are only 600 azurite, and fossils can be found from either the regular item nodes, or they can be found from the fossil nodes, or they can be found from the vendor, which resets after every node, so you can check on that. Or finally, they can be found from any of the specific nodes. So like contains minion and aura items, that'll contain a minion and aura fossil, which is how I got this bound fossil. Contains cold items nodes will contain a frigid fossil. So that kind of thing. So I'll be getting those and using that to roll my maps. That's something important to note, and that's why I was spending my alchemies. Heatshiver, I bought this for 3 or 4 alchemies just a little while ago. Southbound was actually, this high rolled one was either 2 or 3 elks. I bought the 3-step assault for 10,000 gold, which is a deal because alchemies are hard to come by, but 10,000 gold you can sometimes get in like 2 maps. So that was a really great deal for and on top of that, it was one of the higher life rolls of the 3-step assaults that were on the market at the time. So I managed to pick up that with 65 life, which puts me pretty high. So those are the uniques I'm running, and I don't foresee being able to get a Yoke of Suffering anytime soon. That would be the final unique in the build. So as far as my rare gear, this is my amulet. I need strength and intelligence. It's really bad, but at least it does have some cold damage, some life, and life on hit with attacks. That's pretty nice. This ring is actually really good. It's got a lot of resists, 40 fire resist, 44 cold resist, and then the 14 implicit cold and lightning. The increased lightning damage is not useless to me as I am scaling a little bit of lightning damage. The southbound that I got is actually a max life and very high flat damage roll, and I got it for relatively cheap. I think this was actually the cheapest one on the market at the time, weirdly enough, even though it was also probably one of the best, if not the best one that was available at the time. So got really lucky with that snipe there. My armor, I've been running this for probably since like Act 7 or so. It's just 4-link with 79 life and 35 fire resist on a dragon scale doublet. Doesn't really do too much for me, but I haven't found anything better yet, so that's what I'm wearing. I'm not too worried about buying a body armor until I can at least buy a 5-link, but I might try to roll for a 5-link as well. Then I have just this really pitiful cold damage, decent life, but max cast resist implicit amethyst ring. And this belt, which is actually pretty solid. I found this in like a tier 4 map yesterday evening, and it's got a max implicit roll and strength. Blessed orbs are really hard to find, so I try to hold on to max implicit items that I might use, like heavy belts, agate amulets, any kind of rings really, in order to roll on them later. When I get more fossils, I can use those to roll maps and equipment as well. And then finally my shield, 16% chance to suppress spell damage with life, all resist, and lightning resist. So this is actually quite a decent shield as well. Now, obviously for someone who's mapping, this would be terrible gear anywhere else, but it's actually quite excellent gear for specifically Ruthless, and it's serving me well so far. As you can see, my map completion is only 23. My current map pool is, well, I have a little bit of everything up to tier 6s basically, but I don't have any uncompleted maps yet, so I'll have to basically just run them and hope for like adjacent drops. The strategy I'm going to use, and I think I did a Ruthless video on a Bone Shatter Juggernaut or earlier on this league, kind of explaining how I was running infinite blueprints and contracts. I'm going to be doing something similar now. But the way that the content works in Ruthless is that you have, for all of the 4 different masters outside of Kirak, and then the 10 main pieces of content that you can run that you can block here, those all combined have a 25% chance to spawn on maps, which is split evenly amongst them. So pulling up a quick calculator here, we'll do some math. So you basically have a 1 in 14 chance to hit any specific piece of content. Then you multiply that again by 25%. So that means you have a 1.8 roughly chance of getting any specific content on any given map to start with. Now this is really bad, but you can skew this very heavily in your favor. Earlier this league in solo self-found Ruthless, I had blocked everything except for the master missions, which you can't really block, and straight and narrow here, which is rogue markers. And there are these little secret stash and all of these little increased chance to contain a smuggler's cache. So you can actually push the chance of content for several pieces of content that have these increased chances to around basically a 50-50 chance of it spawning. It's actually like 42% when you actually math it out with all the increased percent, but there is a chance that a master mission will spawn, and then there's a 20% or 25, somewhere around 20-25% from what other people have tested, percent chance of a second piece of content spawning, and it can't be another master mission, which means in that case, it can only be the rogue markers, and that's what pushes it up to roughly 50% chance that a contract or one of these little containers for Heist will actually drop. And I'm going to be doing something similar here, but I'm going to be forcing the 2 types of missions. I'm going to be taking Alva missions and Nico missions, and the way I'm doing that is I'm going to block off all of the content. All 10 of these. I'm not getting rid of the ones like I wouldn't mind doing some more blight encounters because I'm gonna need more oils, so I haven't blocked that off yet. I have some good stuff pushed off in ritual, so I'm not gonna block that until I get everything that I want that's been banked up out of there. I have some maps and stuff saved and some currency, so I'm gonna keep that unblocked. And I might keep Heist fully unblocked. I'm not sure if I'm going to block that yet, but I'm going to block all 5 pieces of these content, and I'm going to get Stream of Consciousness. So if I block all 10 of these, that means the 25% chance will only be master missions, and both Alva and the Nico missions will be 100% increased chance basically. So that'll minimize the chances that I'll get June and Einhar missions, because Bestiary is just good for like flask crafting at the moment, and I've already done a few, so I'll have some crafts for that. And then June I don't think is that great. It's really good for getting scarabs, so I might do that later, but other than for getting scarabs, I don't think that it's really worth doing that much betrayal. So yeah, I'm gonna get the archaeology tour, mining partnership, and stream of consciousness, and block off everything else. Then I'm going to be able to stack up a bunch of Alva missions, and for now I'm only going to get all of the higher map tier chances. I'm not going to get like the shaping ones, shaping the skies, mountains, seas, and valleys, mostly because they make things a lot harder. I might pick them up later when I'm a lot better geared, but currently I'm not going to pick those up. So I'm going to rely very heavily on being able to alch my maps using the fossils. And the reason for that is, well, your map drop chance is based on, it works a lot differently. You don't have pack size, you have quantity, and then the map drop chance is always double what the quantity is. So basically, by having a rare map, you can have in between like 40 and 70 or so map drop chance. So that will, I've noticed doing rares, rare maps, I had like a 68% map drop chance map that I did earlier, and it seems to be exponentially more maps as you get higher. So running rare maps is really, really important. So I'm going to basically use Nico to fuel my rare maps. Then I'm going to use Alva to help with map sustain. And I'm basically going to push forward that way. I am probably going to get like commissioned officer and like these little Kirak nodes as well to help sustain, and eventually I will end up picking the shaping ones, but that should be good enough to get me up to like tier 10 or so and get me enough fossils hopefully to craft all of my gear and all of the maps that I'm going to need. And then once I do get up to red maps, once I'm comfortable enough and geared enough to get everything going, I'm going to pick up these other ones, do the Eater of Worlds and the Searing Exarch, and then I will be able to have the increased map drop chance from those as well, which combined with rare maps consistently should help me maintain red maps. So this strategy I should be able to ride all the way up, and after that point, you know, I might do some rogue stuff here and there because that's a great way to get alternate quality gems, which can get you GCPs because they come with quality. Usually not much in between like 1 and 5. In fact, I actually find Ritual drops higher quality gems more often, but the fact that you can just get support gems very easily, you also get a lot of uniques, which uniques tend to sell for a lot of coins. So if I need a lot of coins, that'll be important. And also they're just good uniques. And replica Bitter Dream drops, which will drop like 5 supports, I think, if I remember correctly, when you sell it. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on there. That's gonna be my strategy. It's a little more off kilter than normal people. Oh yeah, and the main reason I do Stream of Consciousness, by the way, rather than just leaving that, is because I would like to be able to run both the Alvas and also the Nikos at my highest map basically within that tier, so that I can guarantee the highest amount of sulfate and the highest temple level that'll give me the best map returns. And that should push me up in maps just as well as having like the higher tier map drop. Basically, I just need to go on one lucky streak and then use my Alva mission at the highest map I have, go into the temple, and then I'll probably get some map tiers of that level and be able to sustain them that way. So that is kind of the plan here. I've got it mostly set up. I just need, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 more completed maps in order to have the baseline set up, and then I'll get these 2 after that, and then pop up here, grab the commissioned officer and all of these little nodes. But once I have all of that set up, I think I'll be able to progress pretty quickly if my theory turns out to be correct, which I hope it does. Skill tree wise, it's pretty similar to what my Trickster generally is. With the exception, I found out lethality actually works for Frost Blades, and since I'm not currently going for a cluster jewel setup, thought I'd go for that. But otherwise, it's pretty close to identical. And then Primal Spirit I need for the Strength and Intelligence, but I'll be speccing out of that as soon as I get to gear to do so. And I'll be speccing into Charisma once I have other things going. As far as my other stuff, I have a Poacher's Mark on hit. I'll be replacing this with Assassin's Mark shortly. This is useful for sustain, and I currently have the physical to cold damage, so it actually converts the bonus physical damage I get over to cold damage, which combined with the base amount of this Gut Ripper, which isn't a particularly high base, but it's what I got, it does give me a decent amount of additional cold damage. So I have that going, and I'll be swapping that to Assassin's Mark and hopefully a quality one if I can find one. And then I have Haste, Precision. I found an Enhance, which I also found in Reliquary in that same singular zone that I dropped 4 support gems. Been leveling that up slowly but surely, and it's not even close, but it'll get there eventually. And then I have a Dread Banner because it's the only other thing I really found, and it makes nearby enemies have 19% less accuracy rating. And then Frost Bomb for exposure. And that's pretty much my whole setup at the moment. I've thought about going into leveling up a Duelist or a Marauder to get Vitality to throw in here, just because I have some extra mana, and maybe get rid of Dread Banner in favor of Vitality. But I have a lot of sustain with my Leech and stuff. I have the Claw Mastery that gives Leech, along with the normal Nightblade stuff. So I have Elusive effect here. Elusive gives crit multi for skill supported by Nightblade, increased Elusive effect here, and then crit stuff. Once I spec out of this, it'll be going up here, and then I'll also be picking up Crystal Skin with both the Avoid Chill and Freeze and Avoid Shock. So I'll be 80% against Ignite and then 100% against Chill, Freeze, and Shock avoidance. And might pick up the Mark Mastery at some point, but I do definitely have to come up and get Frenetic and probably this Jewel Socket. I don't think I have a good Jewel at the moment, but I can try to roll one or pick one up. And that will be most of the build. Then after that, maybe I'll just get like Heart of Oak and fill out the rest of the little life nodes all around here. Another thing I could pick up is Freedom of Movement, because it'll give me more movement speed. But one of the nice things about this is I currently have 48 movement speed just as a baseline, plus I get a bunch of movement speed from Elusive, as well as from, these are my Ascendancies. I have Way of the Poacher, Avatar of Slaughter, Quartz Infusion. Way of the Poacher generates my Frenzy charges, and then this gives me a bunch of evasion, movement speed, currently 20% movement speed at max Frenzy charges, which is pretty much always, which puts my baseline without Elusive up to 68%, and it'll be 72% when I get my other Frenzy. And then a bunch of attack damage and attack speed. So I'm currently getting 40% attack speed when I'm at max Frenzy charges, which is really great. And Quartz Infusion gives me phasing and 40% spell suppress, which this has the 3-step assault, has 30% chance to avoid elemental ailments while phasing, which will be just perfect to put me at 100% for everything else. If you're playing in the event, let me know what you're playing. And yeah, I hope you enjoy. I'll be playing in this for a few more days, and then I'll probably pop on to something else, or I guess whenever I reach my goals. So this has been Ryan from Behind Eyes Gaming. Like if you enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time. Bye.